If you want a TFL t-shirt, just click on me. We've only got a few more days before we stop selling this very first original design. This mid-size sedan segment is so competitive, you really have to bring it in order to be successful. The question is, can Chevy take on a car like this? Because let's face it, the old Malibu, well, if I'm being kind, then I'm going to say that it was a little bit frumpy. And if I'm not being kind, then I'm going to say it was kind of a fleet car, if you know where I'm going with that. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very rainy San Francisco. And Chevy flew me down here to test drive the new Malibu, but they also gave us some competitor cars. To my left is the Ford Fusion. Over here, we have the Honda Accord, and of course, right here, the best-selling car in the mid-size sedan segment, the Toyota Camry. And here it is, the brand spanking new Chevy Malibu. So which one of these cars is the best buy? Well, you know what? I'm going to take them all for a ride, and that is coming up next on the Fast Lane Car. Alright guys, let me explain the rules of the game. First and foremost, Chevy put all these cars together and we're taking advantage of it because it's hard for us to get competing cars in Colorado. So when we have 4 cars that compete, we make the most of it. Also, keep this in mind, there are 20 other journalists here who want to get a hold of these cars. So I don't have a lot of time behind the wheel because they start wondering where I'm at. So this is going to be a quick review. Now I'm in the 2016 Ford Fusion. And I remember when this car first came out, and it seems like, well, it seems like a long time ago now. So it is one of the more elderly, statesman-like cars in this segment. But having said that, it is also, I think, one of the best looking cars in the segment. It's very European, it's very sexy, and at the time when it first came out, it was thought to be very revolutionary, at least from a design point of view. Now, inside, of course, it has sync, which, well, you know, I could go on and on, but I'm not going to beat that dead horse. Sync is something that sometimes, for a lot of people, including myself, gets in the way of the driving experience and doesn't necessarily enhance it. But overall, it's a very handsome interior. Some of the plastics are a little bit on the cheap side, but almost everywhere I touch, everywhere I look, I see elegance, I see thoughtful design, I see expensive features and functions, and I have a car in Ford, you know, that's pretty lively. Keep in mind, what this car doesn't have and what the new Malibu does have is a turbocharger. Does that make this not as fast? Well, you know, it depends on whether you like turbos or not. I prefer turbos. I think I like the extra pop they give, but if you get into a turbo, it can also be very thirsty. All right, here are all the important numbers on the Ford Fusion. First and foremost, it gets 26 miles combined, 22 in the city, 34 on the highway. And that's because it has the 2.5-liter 4-cylinder with a 6-speed automatic transmission that puts out 175 horsepower. And perhaps the most important number of all, total MSRP on this car, $26,610. I'm in the sport mode right now. And this car is really screwed together well. There's a sense of, well, there's a sense of vault-like quality about it, which used to be reserved for much more expensive cars like Mercedes. But overall, when Ford built this car, they were building it for not just America, but for the entire world. So it was one of Alan Mullally's One Ford cars, which meant that before Alan Mulally came to, that's the old CEO of Ford, to Ford, they would build specific cars for America, specific cars for Europe, and with the Fusion and the Focus, they decided that they were going to build a car for the entire world as opposed to doing specific cars just for specific markets. And I think that's a great strategy because while this car certainly is not Autobahn bred, I think it will be very comfortable on the Autobahn, just as it's very comfortable plowing through the rain of the San Francisco twisty streets. 2016 Honda Accord. Now, this is an interesting car, and I know a lot about it because I was just at the launch of the new Accord and got to drive the coupe. And you can see that video by clicking above if you're interested in the coupe version of this car. Of course, this car has something that the others don't, and that is, can you guess? 3 letters. I bet you can guess. It's a CVT, and for that reason it's the most fuel efficient. And the Japanese have gone all in on CVTs, pretty much. Honda has done so with the new Civic. Nissan is pretty much all CVT, and Toyota is getting there. So how does this car compare to the others? Well, you know, the thing about the Accord is it has kind of become America's mid-size sedan. And what I mean by that is there have been generations of people who have grown up as having this car be their family truckster. So there's a pedigree to it. There is just a lot of built up love. And so when you're Chevy and you're trying to compete with a car like this, you're not only going against the engineering of this car, which is excellent, but you're also going up against basically generations of Accords and of people driving them. And people have very set feelings about the Accord, and this car, well, you know, it's just an evolution of all the previous generations. But let's floor it and you decide. Peppy, but a little bit buzzy. But the upside is exceptional fuel economy. This Honda Accord is the fuel efficiency king at 31 miles combined, 27 city, 37 on the highway. It has 185 horsepower, 2.4 liter 4-cylinder that's mated to, you guess what it's mated to, of course it's mated to a CVT. And the most important number for this car, $23,725. That's the MSRP. There's a lot of thought given to the placement of the controls. There's a lot of thought given to how a person interacts with this car, how a person sits in the car, how you see out of the car, you know, all the stuff that would inspire an engineering driven company versus, let's say, style. And to my eye at least, I think it's, well, you know, if you were at a dance and you were picking people to dance with, I'm going to be kind, I'm going to say the Accord, for me, would not be the first car I would pick to dance with from a style and exterior point of view. But once you get behind the wheel of this car, you know, once you get to know the car, and once you kind of see the honesty and the thought and the engineering that went into it, the way that everything just feels very, I won't say expensive, but honest. The way that the car translates the road into really honest road feel, and the way that this car is going to maintain that same honesty and that same engineering prowess through the entire life, then you all of a sudden start to value it, and you see why people over the generations have called this their family's truckster. So is it the sexiest car of the bunch? No, not for me at least. But is it the car that you might want to have the long-term relationship? In other words, is this the girl you might want to marry? I could see that. A Toyota Camry with paddle shifters and a sport-tuned suspension? Am I in the right car? What the heck's going on? This used to be the refrigerator of the automotive world. It used to be dead reliable, and it used to be an appliance. So when Toyota a few years ago decided to inject some life, some passion, some fun to driveness into their cars, it came as a little bit of a shock to many. So I'm going to put it in sport mode because I got one, and I'm going to take it for a ride. I'm going to see if this sport-tuned suspension with a 6-speed automatic with paddle shifters is actually the sportiest car of the bunch. Now, of course, Toyota is trying to lose that old stodgy image in all their products. Yeah, so I just drove the Toyota Corolla, the sport model, and it looks sporty, but it drove with a CVT like a compact economy car. So let's see if this Camry is a lot different. And by the way, if you want to see that video all you have to do is click above and I'll take you right to it. All right, here we go. Once again, we got a lot of other journalists here, so it's going to be a short ride, but I am curious to see what happens when I put the pedal to the metal and I give this bad boy the beans. Of course, it's front wheel drive, so it's not like it's going to do a smoky burnout, but let's see how much passion Toyota has infused into their Camry. Here we go. Giving it the beans. All right. I would say the passion is there in style, but maybe not so much in substance. This is kind of interesting. This Camry has a whole 3 more horsepower than the Ford Fusion, 178, coming out of a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder paired to a 6-speed automatic transmission. It gets 28 combined, 25 in the city, 35 on the highway, and the most important number, drum roll please, $25,569 MSRP. Camry is the kind of car that you buy when you have a much more sexy car that leaves you stranded on the side of the road for the 5th time, because then you want a car that won't do that again, and this Camry, because of Toyota's reputation, probably won't do that. The interior, well, the interior is, I would say, very straightforward. All the buttons are very logically laid out. The steering wheel actually is nice and fat. All the controls come to hand easily. I do like the paddle shifters. Of course, the car will shift for itself if I decide that I want to take it to some crazy RPM, but that's the way it is with all these kind of paddle shifters. But at least I have them. Heck, you know, that's a good start. From an exterior styling point of view, I got to be in the same place I am with the Honda Accord. There seems to be a little bit of Tokyo chic in this design, and it's just not to my taste. You know, I usually don't talk a lot about design because that's really up to you. And what I think is, oh, it is holding those revs. Whoa, look at that! Come on, I've got it floored, and all right. It did let me hold the revs, and it did put a big smile on my face. So maybe there is more passion under the hood than I was led to believe. All right, let me go down, downshift, come on. Here we go. 2nd, 3rd. Yeah, you can flog this thing around. Would I recommend it? No, but can you do it? Hell yeah. And that's, you know, at the end of the day, that's quite surprising coming out of a Toyota. So I guess I'm going to say this is more passionate than I thought. So I'm in the Malibu, and keep in mind that there's a bigger version of this with a larger engine, a 2-liter turbo, but this is the 1.5 that directly competes against the smaller engines in the other cars. So here are the numbers: 27895, that's the as tested price, 27 city, 37 highway, 160 horsepower and 184 pound-foot of torque, and it's mated to a 6-speed automatic transmission. So let's take it for a ride and see how this compares to the other cars. Now, the first impression is positive. Everything I touch, everything I kind of look at feels expensive. It doesn't feel like they've done a lot of cost cutting, not a lot of hollow plastics. That's always good. Now keep in mind that the 2016 Malibu is actually larger, more fuel efficient, and get this, 300 pounds lighter than the outgoing car. There's 1.3 inches more legroom in the back seat, which is one of the shortcomings of the old car. And of course, they've added a whole suite of safety features that are available to basically compete with today's modern cars. So there's automatic braking should a pedestrian walk in front of you and you not see him. There's blind spot monitoring. There is, when you're backing up, cross traffic alert. There's even lane keep, where the car will stay or try to stay in its lane because it identifies the lane markers. Of course, the question is, just how fast is a 1.5? I do like the fact that it's direct injected. It's a modern engine. I do like the fact that it's a 6-speed automatic. The 2-liter gets the 8, but I can live with this 6-speed automatic. And let's see if I like the fact that it accelerates. Here we go. You know, there's a sense of torque. Chevy will tell you that they've added a lot more torque than top end speed, because top end speed is all about horsepower and torque is all about acceleration. So that's really where they've gone. A little bit of turbo lag. You know, is it fast? No. Is it speedy? Will it get out of its own way? You bet it will. The steering feels relatively connected. Now, some of these cars now with electric steering just are numb. You can't exactly tell what the car is doing, but this one feels like I can sense the road somewhat. You know, if you're looking at like the old hydraulic steering as being the very best, this would be a 6 on that scale. So it's okay. I do like the new style of the car. I think that it is swoopy and sexy, and certainly a car that I would be happier to have than the outgoing car, because let's face it, the outgoing car was, and if I'm being kind, frumpy, and this new car is much nicer. Actually, the wheelbase is 4 inches longer. That's quite impressive when you can make a car that's 4 inches longer and still get 300 pounds of weight out of it. Now, you know, is it lively around the corners? On this short drive, I can't tell. I'm gonna have to go back to Colorado and maybe take this thing in the canyons and really give it a good workout to see how it performs. This is just a kind of a seat of the pants, quick ride. But overall, I am very impressed. I like the big screen. I like the placement of the buttons. I don't think it's too fussy. There is, once again, a small thing, but an important thing. There is a volume knob, but there's no tuning knob. You got to use these for tuning. I don't love that. Apple CarPlay is in here, so is Google. So if you're an Apple or an Android user, you've got both of those. Plenty of headroom, and it's very quiet. Listen. Can't hear much. And the brakes, they stop the car. I can't really be more authoritative than that on such a short drive. So overall, I would say that this car is a vast improvement over the outgoing model, and certainly raises the bar when it comes to cars in the mid-size sedan segment. And because if you're going to compete in this segment, you have to bring it. And I think for the most part, Chevy has. So it wouldn't be fair to you, and it certainly wouldn't be fair to GM if I were to give you a complete decision after driving the cars for a few minutes. But if you want the best looking car in the segment, you'd be hard pressed to get a better car than the Ford Fusion. If you're a big Honda fan, a Honda fanboy, and your parents have driven the Accord, and this is a car that speaks to you and your family well, it's hard to beat the Accord. And of course, over here, if you're looking for reliability, if you're looking for the best-selling car in the segment, then the Camry is of course a good choice. But I am sincerely impressed with the brand new Chevy Malibu. Not only is it bigger, not only is it more fuel efficient, not only is it more fun to drive, but it's sexy. And so I think it's right up there with one of the best looking, most fuel efficient and largest cars in this segment. As always, this is Roman reporting for the Fast Lane Car. Check out TFLcar.com for more news, views, and real world reviews. And look at this. If you want a TFL t-shirt, just click on me. We've only got a few more days before we stop selling this very first original design. See you guys next time. It's time to get dry. Oh yeah. I do love that turbocharger. I love the fact that this engine will wind up all the way to 6,500 RPM. And I love the fact, I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but I love the fact that you don't have that CVT drone. Ladies and gentlemen, meet the 2016 Chevy Malibu. And Chevy flew me out here to San Francisco and took this airplane out of the hangar and set up the Malibu in the hangar so that we could get to know all about the new car, and so that you can also get to know all about the new car. And that is coming up right now on the Fast Lane Car. Oh yeah, we'll also take it for a ride.